Heads or tails?
Heads.
Tails. Heads or tails?
Heads again.
Tails. Heads or tails?
Tails. Come on.
Heads. This is the
first
and only time in my life I've ever thought that you and Virat Kohli have so much in common. Now roll the bumper. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the final over and out of England's tour of India. Can you believe it? It feels like it's been the longest tour ever. And I have noticed in there, yes, I see you guys talking about Kohli and tosses. What can you do? Every time he goes to the coin toss, he's got exactly 50% chance of getting it right. Doesn't change no matter how many times he does it. Poor old. But hey, at least India won the series.
Exactly. Before we start, I'm just glad that they don't use that whole bat thing in international cricket.
Flip.
Yeah, you don't want a bat anywhere near Virat Kohli when he keeps losing tosses. Like, yeah, I'm just saying, we can do more damage with a bat than a Kohli.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Okay, well, we have 6 deliveries for you today from the third ODI. And first up, we have England still number 1. Yes, India won the series. England still number 1. Is that justified, Barrett, really? I mean, not that we take that much notice of rankings, but do we think England is still the best ODI side in the world?
I definitely think so. I mean, yes, they lost this series, but what they would have taken, or what they will take away from this is the style of cricket, their approach to one-day cricket still works. Because they ran India really close. And yes, I mean, I'm not making this all about, England were missing key players, but they were. I mean, that's the fact. I mean, without Root, without Morgan, without Vokes, without Archer, to run this Indian team close the way they did, yes, you can say India didn't have Bumrah. I think it tells them that, the way they go about it, just go bang, 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 bang. It keeps them in the game. And you saw it yesterday, right? At 200 for 7, they were down and out. But the fact that they just keep coming at the opposition means that the opposition just have to, find a way of bowling them out or just stopping their onslaught. They never give up. Or in the sense, they never give up looking to hit 6s and 4s. So it's working, and it means that, in these conditions, these two teams are on par. It went to the last ball yesterday, the game, last over. But overall, I think England are still deserved world champions and still deserved number 1 team in the world. But India are inching up there.
They are inching up. I mean, I think it's a really great marker having this series bang in the middle of the World Cup cycle. To have it in India, I think England will look at it as being quite useful for them in having that marker. And the fact that they've had their depth really challenged in this series without a lot of players, I think that's hugely positive for them in seeing the likes of Curran and even Malan sort of coming in and doing what they did. So very, very useful for them. They ain't going to change the way that they played. What this series may have done is showed them a couple of other players who can fit into that and play to their style when it's needed and when that depth is challenged. So that is our first delivery. Our second delivery of the match, backing the troops. Let's talk about India. Now, you can't just expect India to play just like England. It's not a matter of, it's very much with England dependent on the players they've got and both in batting and bowling and just how they've sort of structured their whole attack. What they did before the last World Cup is they really identified a group of players, stuck with them. They allowed them to fail. So players weren't playing, with one eye sort of over their shoulder, thinking, I've got to get this many, and my position's sort of now safe. They were given permission to fail. And I would like to see India adopt that same philosophy. I know you've said they don't, not necessarily wanting to plan that far ahead, but this is a great opportunity for them. They have been identifying all this brilliant new talent coming through, all these debutants that have come in. Allow them the freedom, because what that also does is if your batters at the top of the order have the freedom to fail, to try things and not feel if it doesn't come off, then they're probably out of the side. They've also got the brilliant buffer of the likes of RISHABH, and Hardik Pandya, and even Thakur and others further down the line. So I would like to see them back in the troops that they're going to see through to the World Cup, barring injury or some disaster.
Now, what a remarkable 4 months for Indian cricket, right? I mean, yes, I'm sure they've had more glorious periods in their rich history, but they've not just won a lot of matches across all formats, but the bench just seems to keep growing wider and wider and bigger and bigger. Players just come in and put on special performances, and the guys who are there just keep getting better. Like Rishabh Pant, you said, Hardik Pandya, Shardul Thakur with bat and ball, and so too their approach to one-day cricket or the way they look at one-day cricket. Yes, England are able to play the way they do because of the depth in their batting lineup and the depth in their ranks as well, white ball ranks as well. The fact that they can just keep coming at you, we spoke about that yesterday, was because you have someone like Sam Curran batting at number 8 and Moeen Ali at number 7. And if they were full strength, they would have had Chris Wokes and Jofra Archer. And so the top order can just go bang, 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 knowing that, there's that buffer, there's that comfort or the cushion down in the order who can continue doing that. So now that you've found, like I said, Rishabh Pant and Hardik Pandya are playing the best they ever have, with the bat especially. And then you have the likes of Surya Kumar waiting in the wings. Then you have Shardul Thakur. What a brilliant cricketer he's turning out to be. We spoke about him in our previous shows. And then you have Bhuvi Kumar. So it's just a lot of depth. And Jadeja will definitely come back into this side. Krunal Pandya and Jadeja together, who knows? So when you have so much depth, India can actually, now that they have 2 years to prepare for that World Cup, they can maybe start working towards that England philosophy, because that's where one-day cricket is going. You'll see the West Indies is going to play the same way. The other teams will have to adapt if they want to stop England, because they are so far ahead as number one, like we said, in one-day cricket. So I think it's a good sign for India, but like you said, you need to back the troops, just give them that confidence, which this team management has thrived in doing so, except Kuldeep Yadav is the only exception. We spoke about him last time. With everyone else, they've really backed them, and everybody seems to be coming good.
Yeah, just notice a comment there on that from Anu Deshpande saying, speaking of backing the troops, should India back the leggies Chahal and Kuldeep, or do you see this as the end of the road for that partnership? Notice I say Chahal because I've been told that that's the right way, not Chahal. Just saying. Yeah, notice how much India relied on pace. Who'd have thought India would be relying so much on pace in India? But I think, I don't know how much they're going to rely on those two. We'll have to see. They're going to need to take some leg spin surely into it anyway. Yeah. Look at the way England have brought the best out of Adil Rashid. If they could find a way to bring out the best in those guys, maybe there'd be a bit of a difference as well. But we'll see. Okay, so that's a comment from the side there. We're going to crack on, though, to number 3 in our over, keeping up with Rishabh. Brilliant, wasn't it? Tactical genius to have him keeping up to the stumps, keeping the batsmen pinned into their own crease so that the swing of Bhuvi had much more chance of creating havoc, and it worked, and it was brilliant. But you also have to have a keeper who's able to do that. And hats off to Rishabh. I know how many critics he's had about his keeping, but the fact that he's just so willing to have a go at something different and to take that on. And, they were probably only bowling at about 130. Keeping up to the stumps when they're bowling at 130s, it's not easy. I mean, I've never done it, but I'm sure it's not easy.
I mean, keeping up with Rishabh Pant itself is becoming difficult. Every time we sit here and talk about him or we write about him, we have to find different adjectives and different ways to describe just how special a talent he is. He always has been, but now he's delivering on the big stage, on every stage. We saw it with the bat, but yeah, I mean, if anything, it was a new school borrowing from the old school, right? Back in the day, when you had specialist wicketkeepers, regardless of how well they could bat or not in the 70s and the 80s, that was one way of stopping the batsman from getting out of his crease. You saw, I mean, the likes of Jack Russell in the late 80s and the 90s, and you go back even before that. Those were amazing great keepers who could just stand up to anyone, bowling at whatever pace they were bowling at. I mean, Jeff Dujon never stood up to Michael Holding and Andy Roberts and Joel Garner, of course, but he didn't have to because nobody was jumping out of their crease to those guys. But the thing with that, we saw with Johnny Bairstow yesterday, it's not always to just stop the batsman from jumping out of the crease and getting stumped. It's more to get him LBW. It's more to keep him in the crease. And when you have someone like Bhuvneshwar Kumar who bowls those tight lines and lengths, like we said, uh, he and Johnny Bairstow is always an LBW candidate, considering he kind of walks across the stumps. That's what he achieved. It takes a lot of confidence, but one thing we know Rishabh Pant has a lot of is confidence with his batting and now with his keeping. So yeah, it's a strategy that worked, and it's a strategy that we're going to see a lot more if we know Rishabh the way we do.
Yeah, and I mean, just on him. Not only was he in fine voice last night with his howling, the shots. I mean, he was playing them on one knee. He was almost playing sitting down on his butt. He only has one hand. It's quite, in some ways, ugly to look at, but ugly in quite a thrilling way, if you know what I mean. So he has been incredibly exciting. He's one of my favourite cricketers to watch at the moment because he's just so entertaining. That is halfway through the over. Our next delivery coming up right down there. There's something about Malan. You know, it's always fascinates me. I always used to think about Dawid Malan. If you go back and look at his domestic history, his career, his best format to play in, to bat in, was really probably always 50 over cricket. And then there was some weird irony about the fact that he was playing Test cricket for England. He was in the T20 side, and he just couldn't crack the ODI side because they had that batting sorted out. And so now here he is finally playing in what I think has been, he may be number one T20 batter in the world, but going back, and I think that's naturally his best format. Maybe that's changing a bit now. But talking about Rishabh and how it was sort of ugly but thrilling and everything else. Even when you look at Josh Butler, even Ben Stokes in a different way, Dawid Malan makes it look so simple. It's just so smooth. He has a way of making every stroke just look so easy, even compared to those other terrific batters. And it's quite something. It's hard to pin it on, but I know that you were talking about him in a musical sense.
He's like a beautiful bluesy guitarist in this heavy metal concert. He kind of doesn't fit in the way he goes about his batting, but yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it. Like, he's not so much an Eric Clapton. I mean, he's left-handed, so Jimi Hendrix could do anything. He was a maverick, but when Jimi Hendrix really, like, when he got down to the bare basics of Jimi Hendrix's music, it was all about the blues. And I can totally picture Dawid Malan, like, standing in almost like Stevie Ray Vaughan, like in a corner with a cigarette on the side of his mouth, just looking so cool, while Butler and those guys are just like, like playing some thrash metal. But that's what he's almost a left-handed Damien Martin. Maybe not in the same class as a Damien Martin, but you would just love to watch him bat. He's so silky smooth. The way even he deflects the ball towards third man. There's so much class about Dawid Malan. You just want to see, keep watching him bat. Like, he could put on, guys like him and Damien Martin should just put on a batting masterclass, like, regardless of match condition or match situation. And, well, he's been really consistent in T20 cricket. And like you said, white ball cricket was his real thing, right? I think he made a T20 100 when he was very young. I remember many years ago, 12, 13 years ago for Middlesex. And that was his first claim to fame. And then he dominated one-day cricket in England. And I don't know how much of a run he will get in this side once Morgan and Root and those guys come back. But I'm sure he can play like a Joe Root-ish role in case Joe Root is injured or he misses out. So maybe he's shown England that their options are plenty right now.
Yeah, I think that was definitely something to come out of this, and you're right about how he could play a Joe Root kind of role, I think, at times in there, while also having that ability to be explosive. Now, our fifth delivery of the over, go for the thighs. Now, we're not being creepy here. This is not being creepy. If you're anywhere around someone and they have thighs, don't actually physically go
please
for the
don't.
thighs.
Yeah.
No, don't do it. This is a clean show. We want none of you to get arrested because it is illegal. But what the new surprise wicket-taking delivery in ODI cricket in particular seems to be the old thigh-high full toss. Did for Ben Stokes last night.
Did for Ben Stokes, did for Liam Livingstone, and it's a ploy that I don't know bowlers use intentionally, but you see it so often in T20 cricket. I mean, I'm not talking about the low full toss or a beamer, but just getting it around thigh height. And like if it's that high, the batsman is going to go swinging, and especially when you have a batting lineup, whether it's in T20 cricket or England in 50-over cricket, when they're coming after you, it's a ball that you can't always control when
Mm.
you're trying to hit it anywhere, whether you're trying to hit it straight or whether you're trying to hit it across the line or inside out. And at times you're not sure whether I should just place it down the ground or try to hit it like Liam Livingston, or like with Ben Stokes, you don't know how well to hit it, where it actually connects with the bat. It's a very useful flaw. I've been a big advocate of bowlers practicing it in T20 cricket, because in the depth, yes, you can get the Yorker wrong and it can go. But generally, when you miss the Yorker, it's going to be a low full toss, so the batsman can get under it. With a thigh, when you go for someone's thighs, with a
Mm.
cricket ball in your hand, and when you're bowling, let me be very precise. It creates wicket taking opportunities. It can fly over the stands, but I think it's something that bowlers should practice, and because there's that unexpectedness also, right? You don't know when it can come. It's almost like a slower ball back in the day when people didn't expect. When Venkatesh Prasad used to bowl his back of the hand slow one. So in my book, it's a ploy that bowlers should work on, and especially when you're playing against England. And like we saw yesterday, it can get you wickets.
Yeah, and because there is that temptation for the batter, they're going to go for it because it's almost programmed into batters. I think that it's a full toss. It's called a filthy full toss for a reason. You're supposed to actually send those ones. They're gifts. They're gifts for you. You've got to plant them over somewhere in the stands. So there's a natural temptation there, I think, as well. Oh, Tushagiri Mukherjee says, "Happy Holi, Melon Bharat." Happy Holi to
Yeah,
everyone, by the way. If I
indeed.
had some coloured powder, I'd throw it at Bharat, but that would just get over my
Not
computer.
not 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 in the hair, please. That's the only thing with Kohli.
Now, our sixth final delivery, the soap opera drop. That was magnificent. I want someone, okay, you guys out there are really clever, right? I need someone to actually just cut together that whole sequence of Hardik Pandya dropping the ball with every close-up from Hardik to Chahal, to Kohli, Rohit, like everybody's close up. And I just want it to be set with some dramatic Indian soap opera music where you have, where it just goes from one person to the other and they just keep looking significantly. Someone out there, do it, please. If you do it, I
Please.
promise we'll run it on YouTube.
It was classic. It was like watching one of those teleserials in India, because I don't know how many you watched, Mel. Like I've seen, like, and regardless of whether it's in Tamil or Marathi or Hindi, I've been in many households, my friends' households, my own household, and my mother would see some shows where it's generally the same. Like the show will, like the episode will run for 25 minutes, but it will involve a lot of like five people just standing around, either inside a house or outside, where the same person will keep doing the talking, but after every statement, they'll zoom into each one of them. And that's exactly what it was like. Like Hardik Pandya drops the catch, and then you have Bharat Arun doing the most Tamil Mama thing you can ever do, hitting the head and going, "Hey, rascal!" Like, that's what it looked like the way he did it. I have been at the receiving end of that at home with my dad. I was reminded of my dad yesterday looking at Bharat Arun. Then you have Chahal sitting like that. Then you have Rohit Sharma just collapsing to the floor. Virat Kohli doesn't know where to look. Hardik Pandya is like throwing his shades away. It was completely
Ah,
out of like a teleserial, like with just
yeah,
this camera zooming in. And yeah, and that they played it out for so long that the scenes kept playing on. And
you
then
ended up having that. I was just going to say, you ended up having that epilogue where Ben Stokes was out and Hardik Pandya's down, like touching the ground, praying, and everyone's so happy for him. So it was like you had a whole epilogue for it. It was just brilliant.
it really was like, yeah, but I don't think Ravi Shastri wasn't in the dugout early on, but Ravi Shastri was playing the proper, like, the girl's father role towards the end when the India kept dropping catches. When Natarajan dropped one, Hardik dropped a second one, and yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think what Ravi Shastri was saying would get in. I don't think it will pass the censorship test when it comes to him getting a role in a teleserial. But it was, drop catches are generally boring to talk about, as we said off air. But when you have such beautiful
Yeah.
reactions, I think, yeah, maybe we should see more drop catches. Like,
Yeah. So
I
the
mean, maybe not with England. Chris Silver would just sit like that and have no. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, he's
yeah,
made for Hollywood.
Owen Morgan would give you nothing. He'd be rubbish.
Ah,
one of those dramas.
Exactly.
So, yeah, but we need you, someone out there, someone who's good at it. Can you please cut together a whole thing of that? If you do, I promise we will run it on one of our shows, because I think that would be absolutely brilliant. You clever things out there. Now I just see another one there from Dinesh Bishnoi 6592 saying Bhuvneshwar Kumar Swing King. Yes, we've already talked a lot about him. In fact, I'm really happy to say that a lot of the things we talked about, whether it be Shuttle Thakur or Bhuvi or all of those things, they've been okay. They've been turned out all right. We haven't had too much egg on our faces, so that's
Not
pretty
really.
good. Yeah. And I see Mohit Gupta says, I've started watching chess rather than cricket because Team India's cricket matches are dangerous for my heart. Mohit, just look after your heart. It's only a game. Right. It's only a game. And so that's our final over of the series of a really, 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 really long tour. Whew, it's been fun.
No, it has been great fun. Yeah, I mean, it started in Australia, that to imagine. Like, so we've been seeing this Indian team do some incredible things. Someone just I saw asking whether someone was asking you, Bell, directly about whether this is the greatest or like the start of era of domination for Indian cricket. Well, I guess it is, considering the way they seem to be finding ways of winning matches and winning series across all formats. So, looking good.
I say yes, but let's see. Oh, there we are. Let's see. It's early days. It may well be, but I reckon we need maybe a couple more years to really decide if that's what it's going to be, because dominance is, tends to last for a long time.
There's a question from Gautaman Karunakaran asking us if we are coming back for the IPL, Mel. What do you have to say?
Yes. There we are. Yeah, Gautaman. Yes, we are. We are going to be back. Before then, we are keeping our eye on the Australia women who are in New Zealand at the moment. So we'll come back with a piece after they finish their T20 series and ODI series. So get on board. You all want us to support women's cricket. So make sure you get on board for some of that. And we're discussing ideas. Don't you worry. We will be back for the IPL in some form. We look forward to that. But until the next time we see you, it is from Bharat and I, over and out.